Hello there. So this is the next part of the construction of my first overbust corset. If you'd seen my last video, you'll know that we've already constructed our pattern and adjusted it for my measurements, and it's all ready to go. So okay, so you know that it's 6 panel pieces. Okay, so I'll cut those out, put that to a side. And I'll just show you this piece because it's a large piece, but obviously I've got 6 pieces. And all the pieces for one side. This is one side. The other side I've already pinned and got partway construction. So these are the pieces marked out in white tailor's chalk. As you can see, each pattern is marked with its number. This is pattern number 6, and the direction at which the pattern's actually going. Really important actually to do that because you get really confused. It's not quite always easy enough to tell which way it's going, so I always put an arrow to say that, well, this is either, or you can use left or right, you know, left side of the corset, right side of the corset, whatever works for you, but I would think an arrow is a bit more logical for me. Top and bottom, again, getting confused sometimes. The overbust line, underbust lines, everything is transferred from your pattern, the waistline, the top hips, etc. It's all transferred onto these pattern pieces so that when you're pinning it together you can marry everything up and everything is exact how it should be. So yeah, so you cut out 2 sets of each piece, and this is the piece, oops, drop that one, and this is the piece where this part of the busk is going to go. So I decided to double it over this time. Never done that before, but hopefully with it being a leather look material, it's not real leather, and it's got this nice little fancy embroidery on it. If you can see that, just get that in the light. So hopefully it's just something I had left over from a skirt that I had made a few years ago. Unfortunately now it's actually too big for me and I've had to sell it. So you cut 2 of those out. Once you've cut them out, you need to start constructing it. And I've actually dropped my corset on the floor. So you've got 2 pieces, and the next part of your construction is actually to put the busk in. To put this part of the busk in. This is actually 2 parts of section number 1, as you can see. There should be a number 1 up there somewhere, top and the bottom there somewhere. I've actually handled this so that the chalk marks are starting to come off a little bit, but again all of the markings are on there for the waistline and stuff like that. So you put the busk in, which isn't difficult really. You just mark it out on the wrong side of the fabric where the actual holes are going to be, because as you can see this is poking through the fabric there, and in between here the 2 pieces of fabric are sewn together with sometimes 3 or 4. This time I've used 3 rows of lock stitch. That means doing say a 2, 2.5 and a 3 mil length stitch all over one another, and it creates a very, very strong seam. And then what you do is in there is the busk, and you just top stitch or stitch down the edge of the busk just to hold all that in place, and there's 2 rows of stitching in there. Okay, so that's your first job. Then you start sewing your pieces together. This one's already been sewn. Just wanted to see how it was going to sew together, and it went very, very nearly dead on the sewing line. So I continued putting the rest of the panels together. With it being quite a thick material, I wasn't sure how much of a. I'll explain how I do the pinning really, rather than go on to that, because it'll be explanatory. This is how I pin my pieces together. You don't use along the line, you use horizontally. That's the way you pin corsets. Just saw it on YouTube and thought they know what they're on about. I'm going to carry on doing that. So how I do it is as you know, I mark the sewing line, and then I pin exactly on the sewing line on the side that I'm going to sew, and on the other side the pins actually go about 2 or 3 mil towards the edge of the fabric in, because if you pinned exactly on the line on each side, you would find that your sewing will be over here somewhere. Not that much, obviously, I'm being exaggerating, but they wouldn't be on the sewing line. So what I do is I put it exactly on the sewing line on the side that I'm going to sew. Ice cream man. It's freezing outside, it's ice cream man. And then 2 or 3 millimeters over this side to compensate for the pins going in. Some people use curved pins. I've never actually found curved pins, and I find them really hard to handle as well. So you just do exactly the same on each of your panels, and these are about 1/2 an inch, 3/4 of an inch, depending on the curvature, apart. So it's pin heaven, but pins are your friend. So you pin all of the pieces together, and then you're ready to sew. So that's it, we're ready to sew. What I'll do is I will lock stitch each of these pieces using probably a 2 mil and a 2.5 mil stitch length. What I mean by the stitch length is if we just go up to my machine. This is my machine, my Brother XL2620, which is a really nice machine. Got it half price from Argos about 5 years ago. Haven't really used it much until I started Corsetry. So this is on number 2 setting, and that's the straight stitch. And I've currently got it on a 2 mil stitch, so that's the first first line of stitching that I'll do. And then what I do is I just put it to about 2.5 to do the next line, and do exactly the same. And that's creating a lock stitch, which I've done on this piece, which is a very, very strong stitch. Keeps it together nice and strong. So that's what we're going to do next. So next time I will have my pieces all sewn up, and I will probably be showing you how I put this part of the buskin maybe, or you know, the kutee side, which is the fashion fabric is going to be this side, and it's going to be one layer of kutee, because it's not going to be a waist training corset. It's actually just going to be a fashion corset. I'm making it exactly the same as I would a normal corset, with spiral steel bones in it, everything how it should be. Okay, well, thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye.